And if everyone will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Now we'll have roll call, please.
David Moore. Nicholas Sheskowski. Here. Wanda Simmons. Here. Felicia Hollerman. Susan LaRusso.
Here.
Sharon Herman.
Here.
Tim Borden. Here. Vicki Drumheller.
Here.
Richard Gilmore.
Here.
Scott Liebertor.
Here.
Bill Flynn.
Here.
I think Charles Stadelman by Zoom.
I believe he is on Zoom.
He does? Okay. Jeannie Hill.
Here.
Grace Reed.
Here.
And Preet Singh has an excused absence.
I'm actually here on Zoom, guys. I can hear you.
He and Mr. Staleman are on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Well, welcome for our Zoom folks. It's not really easy to hear you, so try to announce well. Our next thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes. Has everyone had an opportunity to read them? Any corrections? I just have one correction, and that is, Scott, your name needs to be corrected in the roll call. That was the only correction that I had. Can I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes. Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the minutes as read. And now we're going to get into the meat. We are going to start our going through Article 2, the City Council part of the charter. And as we did last week, we'll just go section by section. So the first, section 2.01, is the composition, which states that there will be 5 council members elected by qualified voters. Is there any discussion? This is on page 7 at the bottom. Is there any discussion about that 2.01 number of council?
Madam Chairperson, can you hear me?
I can.
I'm sorry to interrupt you. This is Charles Stadelman. I just want to let you know I'm attending by Zoom.
Yes, we got that you were on Zoom.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much. I'm stuck in traffic.
Oh, that's okay. Drive safe.
Here in Sebastian? Right. No, can't be.
Any comments about 2.01? Everyone's fine with 5 members. Okay. Let's go to section 2.02, which is the eligibility requirement. And I think we have some folks, I don't feel like we have to read it, but let's just open some discussion on eligibility.
Madam Chair, if you may. A couple things I think of ethical things, and as I was going through some things this week, I came up with some things I felt would be important for eligibility. One of them would be anybody that had a crime involving accepting, giving, or offering a bribe. Number 2 would be embezzlement. Number 3 would be theft. Number 4 would be a felony of any kind, giving, accepting, or using of public funds. 5 would be forgery. 6, extortion. 7, perjury. 8, conspiracy to commit any of the above crimes. Number 9, misappropriation of public funds. Number 10, felony of giving, receiving a contract that you're a beneficiary of. And number 11, conviction of the following Sunshine Law crimes, which is undisclosed meetings, electronic communications, use of intermediaries, discussion of non-exempt closed session, and improper meeting procedures. So I think that we should really discuss adding that under eligibility, where if any of that stuff has occurred to a candidate, I don't think they should be allowed to be a candidate. I wanted to bring that up for discussion, see what the committee thought about that.
Tim, can I see your notes just to write?
I think you can talk faster than he can write. But Brian is going to put up each of the discussions for the sections that we have a little discussion on, so that we will have those for reference as we go in.
I
So,
also would like to add to that,
certainly.
that the individual should be required to be paid up on all taxes and all liens and fines that have been assessed against them by the city.
To expand on what Nick just said, I know there's been a question added to the eligibility form, and I don't know which one, what the name of the form was, but one of the questions was, do you owe any fines, judgments, liens, to any, any municipality or county? And there's a yes or no. So following that, that's something that should be added as well, to match the qualification paperwork. And then I didn't stay caught up with Tim, so I might have some of the same things. And as far as the restitutions, it needs to be to any county or municipality in the state, not just City of Sebastian or Indian River County. Somebody might owe something down in Palm Beach County, and they really need to be free of that before they start trying to mess in anybody else's budget. I was going to bring up bankruptcy filings, but I don't know if it should be in there or not. I don't know how extensive that would matter.
We'll put it on the list.
Yeah, whether or not they filed any bankruptcies and which one would matter. Would it be Chapter 7, Chapter 11, Chapter 13? Which one would be the one that would be the most bang against the city or being involved in budget type workings? Because I feel like if a person cannot run their own finances, they're going to struggle making sense of the cities. Another thing with the eligibility is who is responsible for making sure that everything that is put on those applications is correct and truthful, even though they signed an oath. I know that it's not the city clerk, it's not supervisor of elections. In one of the chapters, it says something about the ethics committee, but I think it would be up to, say Bill and Susan were running, and one of them had a question about the other's ethics or something they had done. It would be up to that one to file something with the ethics committee, and by then the election might be over by the time they get around to doing it. So who is it that's actually responsible for making sure that what a candidate puts on there is accurate? A lot of people don't do their due diligence. When I moved here in 2019, I didn't know anybody. So the only thing I could do was look into their profiles and stuff like that, and I immediately knew who I wasn't going to vote for. But I think we just need to have some way of identifying how you can make sure that either.
Let me see if I'm hearing you right, because I think that's a process policy thing more than a charter thing, unless you're talking about adding into the eligibility of the charter, however that looks, declaring who would be responsible for really researching the information provided.
Kind of, sort of, but I think you're right. I think it would be more process-oriented.
Yeah.
Okay, here's who's running. Is there anybody who can check on that and make sure they're really eligible? Or are they disqualified? And for number 2, I think that was the only thing, except it was some of the clarity in the reading. It just, when I read it, it made sense, but sometimes it didn't make sense. And it was qualified elector in the city and actually continually resided. So it says actually continually. So does that mean, okay, I own a house there and I've owned that house for years, so I'm qualified? Or do you have to actually be here for the year? And I know people go on vacation and stuff like that, but does 6 months qualify as just going on vacation, or does that qualify just because you still own the house?
So I would ask you if, under the current eligibility as it reads, if we have someone that is a Florida resident and is here, meets the 6 month qualification and decides to run for office, but they're gone all summer, are they still eligible?
Yeah, generally residency, by law, residency is a matter of your intent, where you tend to make your residence. So if, I intend to make my home residence in Sebastian, but then I'm gone for any length of time, the law would still see it as you're a resident of Sebastian. And there's things that point to that would be used as evidence in court. Like, if I had a New York driver's license and never got a Florida driver's license, you could use that, but none of them are absolutely dispositive. The court would just kind of take it all in and then kind of determine if it was ever challenged. But that's always been the case in the law, is residency is a matter of intent. So that being the case, if we want it to be clearer, we should come up with different language than say resided.
Yeah, right.
Because resided is going to kick into that legal definition of resident, so.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Kawan.
I think it's pretty clear. It says, is qualified elector. And let me ask Mr. Stokes, does that mean that you are eligible to vote? In other words, you couldn't be a felon?
Correct.
Okay. So that eliminates a lot of people right there. And I think if we, get into a garden variety of we're going to miss something. If we try to list everything, we're going to miss something. But I do agree that if we can target sunshine violations, previous sunshine violations, or stuff that may not rise to a felony, but would go towards someone's character, we could eliminate that. But I just think we're going to get into the weeds if we try to list everything that somebody could have done. If they're a qualified elector, they're not going to be a felon unless they've had their rights given back to them. Okay.
The other thing I think that we have to keep in mind on any of these sections is as we decide what we want to push forward and our lawyer puts it into the verbiage for to go to council and potentially to the voters, don't we have a word limit? I mean, it's pretty limited.
I think it's 75 words, isn't it?
It's not going to be able to be a toilet paper roll of charges.
Yeah. Well, the ballot caption is what has the limit.
The other thing can be as long as...
Right, the actual charter provision can be as long as we need it to be. And you look at some of these later on, especially, some of them are very long. So that can be as long, but then we need to find a way to summarize it thoroughly and completely so the voter knows what they're voting for, but keep within that word limit when we make the captions, so.
Piggybacking on what Grace was saying, I'm just wondering if the 1 year should be increased to 2 years, because I've met lots of people who have been here more than 1 year and have no clue.
Is the state 1 year? I'm trying to remember what I read in the state. I think the state is 1 year. Yeah.
Madam Chair?
Yes,
With the continuity of their residency, where it says maintains a continual physical residency, is perhaps there's some way, I know, you said that they define it, the state defines that, but is there any possible way to clarify that? Maybe with a little verbiage so that we don't get people that are 6 months here and 6 months up north, and they may do Zoom, they may not.
Could we remove continuous and put 12-month physical residency?
Actually, I think the language we have in here, and my guess would be that this has come up before, because that's actually pretty good. Continuous physical residency is a pretty, I mean, I'd have no problem standing up in front of a circuit judge and arguing that all day and all night, that somebody who's a snowbird only here 6 months and then they're wherever 6 months doesn't qualify because that's not continuous. Because continuous, obviously we know what that means, and physical means they're here. You can't have that intent, say, well, I intend for Sebastian to be, it's like, no, it says physical residency, meaning here. So I think that those adjectives are actually pretty good there as they are.
And that would cover us, okay. And the other thing I had is that when you're going on your plethora of lists there, one thing I thought of is anybody that's involved in active litigation against the city, it seems to me that if you're in active litigation against the municipality itself, that would be a conflict of interest with anything that you're voting on with the council. And it seems like maybe we need to, as far as eligibility goes, maybe consider that.
Any other suggestions?
I have a question for the attorney. What is the definition of a qualified elector? Who makes that qualification? And then the last question would be, isn't there a certification process when you file to run for office that covers a lot of these parameters?
To your second point first, yes, there, when somebody files to run, they answer a lot of questions. The problem is, if ever challenged, we need to point to where that list came from. You know what I mean? So if we just create a form with a whole bunch of things, and somebody wants, like, well, you're saying here it's got to be 2 years. Where does it say that in the charter? Where does it say that in ordinance or state law? So that's why we would do it here. We'd put it in the charter so that we could update the form and make sure that all those check boxes have some sort of authority behind them. As far as your first question, the qualified elector, that's a supervisor of elections. When you go to register to vote, you getting registered and having a voter registration card, that's what makes you a qualified elector, and that falls within the purview of the supervisor of elections or the circuit court if somebody wants to challenge that. So there's somebody here that files to run and we know they're not living here or whatever. It was going to be challenged, it'd have to go to circuit court. So circuit court would be the only one that could rule upon the supervisor of elections determination that somebody is properly registered to vote here. So,
thank you.
Any other input? Did anyone look at, I spent about 3 hours looking at eligibility criteria for other cities and places, and I was kind of shocked that it all reads just about like what we have. There's not a whole bunch of anything in there. There's no, I mean, gosh, I have to be fingerprinted every 5 years to retain my nursing license, like it or not. Yeah. So, and they have these, affidavits of good moral character that you have to work if you work with any federal funds, but it looks like you can run for the city if you live here and have an address, basically. So I don't know if there's a reason why it's so open.
I think it's just basically, goes back to the founding of the country. That, I mean, we had the gentleman farmers that would be the legislators, and so there was never really seen that you're going to put a whole lot of barriers to it. We're not going to require a degree, and we're not going to require this. And then the state law has done some things, like was brought up, like if you're a felon, see where that's tied in is if you're a felon, you no longer can be a qualified elector until you have your rights restored. But beyond that, it's pretty much seen as, well, we're not going to legislate a lot of barriers. We'll let the voters decide that. So if the voters don't want somebody with this kind of background in it, that's up to them. So, yeah. And maybe that was naive thinking or old-fashioned thinking, because nowadays it seems like, the electorate's not really always engaged Or whether you can even believe what, I mean, in our social media world now, I mean, it's like you have to sort through everything that's coming at you. But the idea was to keep the qualifications minimal and let the voters decide. So.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
should we still consider, though, matching the restitution issue of it to match our qualification forms? I mean, if it doesn't say, it asks the question. And no matter how you answered, if I answered it yes, I owe the city a whole bunch of money. Does that disqualify me just because I answered yes? Because it doesn't say that you cannot be considered if you...
No, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Patty, but if you check that box, the clerk would still qualify you, because what the clerk's going to look at is just, what our basic eligibility is.
Yeah, they only look at to see if it's complete. So should it be in our charter that would disqualify you?
Well, I did look up on the 2026 financial disclosure form for candidates that was the Florida law as of 2024. They have to disclose if they have unpaid tax liabilities.
Mm-hmm.
So on that form, it would be captured, or it should be captured.
That's only if they're already elected. That's not for the.
That's not for the qualification. Okay.
Yes,
right. And also, again, that's just a disclosure. It doesn't disqualify them. So if you're a sitting elected, city council member, county commissioner, whatever, and you fill out your form and you say, yes, I have this, that's not going to disqualify you from your seat where you're at. So it's just a matter of transparency, of letting the voters know.
But I know that there's not but just a few people in this city that would actually go and read those forms. They just wait and see who's coming out and get the initial feel for what people think about that person, and that's what they move with. So
we've got a whole bunch of, we have a list of things up here.
Sorry, I have bad handwriting. I apologize.
Honestly,
I can't even see it. It's this big.
Okay, I'm sorry. So I'll read them for you. I'll read them again. So crime involving accepting, giving, or offering a bribe. Embezzlement, I forgot a B. Theft. There we go. Felony, giving, accepting, or using public funds. Forgery. Extortion. Perjury. Conspiracy to commit any of the above crimes. Bankruptcy filings. That's an item that we needed to discuss. Misappropriation of public funds. Conviction of sunshine law violation. Whether or not they've paid all taxes, liens, fines, judgments, and restitution in any county. Increase 1 year to 2 years. And involved in active litigation against the city.
Just on a couple of these, and I can certainly do some research and report back, but a couple of these I would see as problematic or possibly problematic, and that's why I need to do the research. But like bankruptcy filings, that generally provides you protection. And so I'm not sure we could use that against somebody, because they'd say, well, wait a minute, I filed bankruptcy in order to get protection. Now it's being used against me. And also kind of the same with active litigation, as annoying as that is. And I've dealt with that in numerous places, because we always have the executive sessions with the council. And a lot of times one of the people sitting there is the person who's suing us. So in those situations, we usually don't have executive sessions, because we would have an executive session to talk strategy with the person who's suing us sitting in the room. So that gets very strange. And so I agree that it's problematic. I would be concerned about the legality of saying, well, again, you're trying to redress grievances, you have a legal right to file a lawsuit if you feel you've been harmed, and now it's going to be used against you. So those two I'd want to do some research on. As far as the others, like we brought up, most of the ones that constitute felonies would already apply because they wouldn't be a qualified elector. And if they had their rights restored, I'd be worried with that too, because again, if they had their rights restored, it's pretty much the state saying, okay, that doesn't exist anymore, kind of like with expungements and stuff like that. So I'm not sure we would be able to use it anyway. But again, you guys throw everything out there and then let me, chew on it between this meeting and the next meeting, and I can report back. So,
Mr. Stokes, would there be a way to maybe put something in there that, even though it wouldn't necessarily remove the eligibility of the candidate, but something about, the following conditions, maybe, I don't know if you want to say, may be available for public review or will be available for public review for a candidate's application.
Well,
and even though they wouldn't necessarily be exclusionary to their eligibility, that I'm not exactly sure how to put it, that even though it wouldn't exclude them from being eligible, these are things to be aware of.
and I think that that's what the candidate form is intended for now. So you check those boxes, even if it's not disqualifying, it does put the information out there that the public can see, because those forms are all posted online and everything. So if somebody has certain things, like they owe money to the city, or they have unresolved liens or whatever, it puts that information out there for the public to see. And we could strengthen that somehow, some way. But it does bring up something that was brought up about who decides the eligibility. And that, I just, again, throw out all the ideas and we can discuss them, but I think we get into a little bit of a problem, because you have to make sure there's ample due process and everything. So if I'm going to say, you filed the run, let's say the city council meets, or let's say we have some sort of committee that's going to sit there and go, you don't qualify. Well, we are only going to be able to say that after a full and complete hearing, that they have the right, somebody would have the right to challenge them, and they would have the right to refute that challenge. And then no matter what that system is, it would end up being appealable to the circuit court, which is where it would have to go now. So right now, the next election comes up, somebody files that, let's say, we don't think's lived here for a year, and, somebody would have to file in circuit court to challenge that. And circuit court's usually good, cognizant, if it's filed early enough, they're cognizant of the fact that, they have to deal with it quickly. And so there's usually an injunction, and there's an injunction hearing quickly and everything. But that's why we kind of leave it for the court, because if we did something locally, some sort of committee or even the city council determining this, then it would have to roll back over to the circuit court on an appeal anyway, which would actually just delay it, not really streamline it at all. So,
Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we circle back to section 2.02 at the start of the next meeting, to give Mr. Stokes some time to be able to research the legality of some of these things that we're discussing. I think that would be the wise, prudent thing to do.
Do we have all of our initial ideas? I'll second his motion. If everybody's had a chance to put an idea in, I'll second that motion.
Well, I wanted to put in an idea because most of those charges up there, and the felony conviction, if it was an actual felony conviction, then yes, it would disqualify them. But what if they are currently going through and they haven't been convicted yet?
Right, and those would be problematic, because you generally can't use just an arrest against somebody. There has to be a conviction.
So I don't know if on the candidate form, if it says, are you currently involved in an embezzlement?
Well, I will tell you that and that's going to be another item that I will research, because I can tell you, like, and this very likely is different, but I can tell you, like, in the employment setting, it's illegal to ask somebody if they've been arrested unless they're going for a law enforcement job. That's like the exception.
Right.
But if it's a non-law enforcement job, just a regular, city employee or whatever, we can ask them if they've been convicted, but not arrested, because an arrest,
Right.
So I'm not sure if that translates here. I can certainly find out, but that would be the problem. Now, some of the lower ones, to your point, like the Sunshine Law and things like that, those are misdemeanors. The ethics violations, sometimes they're just administrative proceedings. So those would be something that we would probably have. But again, it would have to be a finding of fault. There would have to be a finding of fault from the Ethics Commission, or a conviction on a sunshine violation that might be a misdemeanor that we might be able to add. But,
Right, because like just regular theft is a misdemeanor charge. If somebody was 19 years old, they committed a theft, nothing major, nothing involving a weapon or anything, and now he's 50 years old and he wants to run for office, are you going to hold that against him, just a basic theft? Or if it's a felony theft, then the felony would automatically disqualify him.
Right.
So, and same with like bankruptcy. I mean, if a kid, was in the military, I mean, I know when I was in the military, everybody threw everything at me. Oh, I can give you all kinds of credit. And then he gets out, can't handle his bills, files bankruptcy when he's 21 years old, but now he's 50 years old. He's settled, he's got his own home, everything else. I don't think that should disqualify.
When he mentioned somebody currently under arrest, not under arrest, but in the process of going through a legal proceeding, I believe under our suspension rules, they can be suspended if they're arrested. So even if they won, as soon as they got sworn in.
Right. No, and you are absolutely right on that. Like right now, if one of our council members was to be arrested, I'd have to notify the governor's office. The governor's office would not remove them from office, but they would suspend. He would suspend them until it's resolved, because So yeah, that is kind of a quandary there.
Welcome to the team. You're suspended.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor to give the attorney time to look over this chart that we've made, so that we can move on.
Zoom if they have anything to add.
Charles, do you have anything to add to this?
Thanks for asking. No, I don't. It's going to be run by what the electoral laws and rules are right now, and I know a lot of this is referring to people who have recently tried to run with charges and such on state law violation. No, I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, is Officer Singh on also?
Yes, ma'am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey, yeah, so going off of what Scott said, like, if somebody obviously is, trying to get in at age 50 and they committed something way in the past, I don't know, just something we could look at is, have you ever been convicted of any of this within the last 20 years or something, like putting a time frame, right? Like if they've been clear for or clean for the last 20, 25 years. I know, when you're going for hiring stuff for agencies, whatever it is, they will usually put like a timestamp of, hey, have you done this in the past within this, last 5-10 years, whatever. So I know Mr. Stokes, when he's going to be researching, I don't know, just something we could look into.
Okay,
for something minor,
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's just vote on the motion. All those in favor of moving forward, accepting this motion, and we'll have the lawyer come back next.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. That motion will carry. I knew we'd have a lot of talk about that. Let's go to section 2.03, which is the election, which talks about the general election of 2 council members and 3 on odd numbers for 2-year terms, and we have at-large voting. Does anyone have anything about this section they'd like to discuss? Is anybody interested in discussing 4-year terms?
No.
I think the House uses 2 years as a way of keeping our electorate accountable.
Everybody's fine with 2.03?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we will move on to 2.04, our term commencement, which just talks about the swearing in of council members prior to the first regularly scheduled city council meeting held following certification of the election. So I think that goes to Florida. Is that Florida?
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yes.
Anybody have anything about that? 2.05, compensation. So I know we wanted to have some discussion about this in where the charter now has the mayor at $450 a month, the vice mayor at $300, and council members at $300 per month. So let's open for discussion. Mr. Gilmore.
Yes, Madam Chair. If you Google it, you'll find that the average salary for a council member in Florida is like anywhere from $21,900 to $27,000 per year. The Stewart Commission, their commissioners are paid $18,000 a year. Vero, which is 10,000 people short of the Sebastian population, they get currently $1,200 a month for the council members, $1,244.45, and $1,504.91 monthly to the mayor, which, if you figure it out, it is basically about $15 an hour is what they're, if you're putting in 80 hours a week or a month, 20 hours a week, which most people on the council do, 80 hours times $15 gets you to $1,200 per month. So I think that's a reasonable amount. The other thing with Vero is that they're considered employees and they also have health insurance. They also get, I presume, retirement. Now, the only person that I know of personally that could use retirement is Joel Tyson from Fellsmere, was on the commission there for probably 30 years. He was just voted off last year, I think. Good friend of mine. But I don't think people get on the council primarily for retirement or health insurance or any of those other benefits. But I think that it's reasonable to pay them a reasonable wage. So.
I definitely agree that the council needs an increase. I think 20 hours a week is a underestimate as far as how much time these council people spend. Given that, and I understand, Vero, we're close to population and stuff, but given the current climate that we have, the people in the area that are struggling with the grocery prices and blah, blah, and they're concerned because taxes have gone up and everything. I think if you're going from $300 a month to $1,200 a month, I don't think we'll ever get it voted on, and the council members will get nothing, no increase at all. So I think that's something that we really need to consider. The other thing we need to consider is how much of an increase can be held by the budget. How much will our current city budget afford us to be able to provide an increase? So I think those two things, but it's just my thoughts.
Grace?
Respectfully, I disagree with both. In addition to the salary they are paid, they are also given $300 a month as a per diem for expenses, whether it's used, if they have expenses that month or not. So technically, they're getting $750 and $600 a month. My understanding, and with a couple I have talked to, the position is designed to be about 20 hours a week. And if someone chooses to go more in depth, there might be something come up on one agenda that's more in depth. And some of our meetings are 45 minutes. So there wasn't a whole lot of mandatory time that had to go into those decisions. And I would also like to go ahead and throw out that we have committees and we have advisory committees. And I think that there's a perception out there that we have no, I'm not going to say pull or anything like that, which technically we don't, but we can ask questions. And I really firmly believe that if some of our committees would ask more questions, less questions would have to be coming from the city council. So in my opinion, I think everything is good. It's been tried before to give this council a raise, and it's always been voted down. And as far as what Ms. Herman said, she's right. I mean, the more we try to take from this community, the more pushback you're going to get. When they see, okay, we're going to go from $450 to $1,200, they're going to say absolutely not. And it's going to be voted down.
Tim?
When was the last time the pay scale was set?
Well, we have to go to the compensation, that's section 2.05. Oh, it's not in this one, it's in the annotated ones. I know. I'd have to go back and look when it got there. Did anyone look at other people's compensation levels? I was very intrigued.
Done in 2006 is what this said.
2006. Palm Bay has a very interesting method in their charter. And it was, they started this in 2016, that they're doing it, they do it by per capita, by population. So the mayor is the rate of 20 cents per capita, council are 10 cents per capita, and it's the population as of the date of approval of the revision, as based on the Bureau of Economic and Business Research and University of Florida. Annual salary of council shall not be increased by more than the consumer price index or the annual increase that's given to other city employees. So they really have a process in here. And there's a couple of, Fellsmere is $400 a month. Melbourne is another computation of average salary of like positions derived from 10 cities within the state that have similar population and form of government. Salary shall be fixed by vote of the city council and reviewed through updated survey information. Cocoa Beach, $500. And they have put into their charter that the compensation can be altered by ordinance. So that means there can be more than like it just sitting here for all of these intervals. In Titusville was $12,022.40, and that's how they calculate the qualifying fee for candidates.
Hold on, can you say Titusville again?
Titusville is $12,022.40, and they have 4-year terms there. So there was a lot of, is there any reason why we have to have a finite amount in the charter and not allow some compensation changes to be made by ordinance? Because this is a long time. If you were working for someone since 2016 and this is what you got, would you be really happy?
Yeah.
Mr. Gilmore?
Just, yeah, the thing about it, a lot of it is a lot like the people that look at their pastor and say, well, he only works an hour every Sunday. You know, he shouldn't get $50,000 a year or $100,000 a year or whatever. But they don't take into account that he spent hours and hours and hours preparing the sermon.
Right.
And went to the hospital and, prayed for people. And I mean, it's a full-time job. But you only see 45 minutes on the dais. You don't see the hours that were spent talking to the city manager, talking to employees, looking at a 300-page brief that you've got to look at twice a month and go through that. A lot of it's technical, and figure out how you're going to vote on something. And talking to people in the city about, well, what does this mean that we want to pave this road? Why do we need to pave this road? There's a lot of stuff that goes in that you don't see up here. And I think a lot of it is how it's worded. If you worded the ordinance to say, well, we want to go from $450 to $1,200, no, nobody's going to vote for that. But that's not how it's going to be couched. Just if you look at how Vero did it, there's an ordinance of the city of Vero Beach that says, shall the charter of the city of Vero Beach be amended to change the city council member compensation set in 2005 as follows, and then it just puts the amount in there, $1,300 a month. This was in 22. Effective fiscal year 23-24, the mayor shall receive a salary of $1,300 per month, and the other members of the city council shall receive a salary of $1,075 per month, and they shall receive an annual increase at the same rate as all non-union and city employees. Well, now you've got something in the charter that allows you to pay your people a decent wage for what they do, and it's, you don't have to go every 5 years and change it. So.
Well, I don't think, yeah, but so how many people think it's okay as it stands?
What's okay?
That the prices are okay, that this should not be changed at all?
I've talked to people.
Okay, Jeannie.
Okay, I talked to 21 different people, city employees, people on the road. I got a lot of different things. People say it's a volunteer position, they're lucky to get paid. I'm just quoting what they're saying, it's not me. Some state that they should at least get $100 a week. So 300 be $400. They did say about the $300 extra for expensive. Then I asked them about what would be a fair raise. Some said that maybe something like the charter gets for pay increase, that the city council would get a pay increase like that. I had one gentleman tell me that they should get a raise like Social Security gets a raise every year. But then I talked to some people that said they think if they offered more money, maybe more people would run. But the biggest problem that people have when they say they wouldn't run is because they know they can't beat incumbents. And that's kind of what they told me.
Tim.
So let's just be honest. When people go in public office, they go to serve, at least the majority of them. And it's not about a paycheck. But at the same time, I don't see any reason why. Tell me if I'm wrong. I believe this was done in 2006, not 2016, according to my notes, that this was when it was established that it was $450 for the mayor, $300 for the vice mayor, and $300 for the council. That was 20 years ago now. A lot's changed in 20 years. Gallons of gas has gone up, 300% since then, so on and so on. So I do believe that they deserve to be compensated more than what we have on this paper. I don't believe that it should be putting a big tax burden on the taxpayer either of the city. So there has to be a happy medium. I think we should double it, is what I think. So right now it's 300. I think we should make it 600. And for the mayor, I think we should make it 900 at least. And if you take that and 20 hours a week, I think is a bare minimum for these positions as they're going out, they're meeting people in the community, they're preparing for meetings. I think most of them watch these subcommittee meetings too that go on for hours each week. So if we took even $600 divided by 80 hours in the week.
$7.50 an hour.
There you go. So you're talking $7.50. And once again, they're not doing this for the paycheck. They're not doing this for the money, but there has to be a balance. You know, and if there's some way we could put that the last time there was a increase was 2006, I think most people would understand or should understand, or that was 20 years ago, and a lot's changed since then financially, in the financial world. So that's my 2 cents.
Ms. Sharon?
Is there, I'm not a math whiz, but I'm wondering if we're using the percentage scale, you know, that you were talking about, you know, 20 cents per populace or whatever. If we could start out at maybe, like you said, the 600 and 900, whatever, and then figure out how much that is per populace, and then allow an increase to go along with the regular city employees, you know, every year. But
yeah, so tie city council's forward compensation to the percentage that city staff receive, like the
but
3%,
instead of
4%.
but instead of saying we're going to increase city council members to 600 and 900, figure out how much that would be determined by the populace. Say, so we're going to increase their wages and base their salary, whatever, their compensation on 17 cents per person, or 20, whatever that number is that makes the starting point that 600 and 900. Does that make sense?
I'm ashamed to say I didn't do the formula, so I have no idea what home-based formula would look like for our folks.
But
so I'll just quickly, can you hear me?
Sure.
So I'll quickly add in here, I just calculated $600 divided by 27,000, just as a rough number. Then that would mean they're getting paid 2.222 cents per, 2 cents basically per person is what you would calculate that as.
Let's see.
Tim?
In our packet, it was done in 2006. It was done October 11th, 2006 was the last time that their pay has been changed.
Yes, Wanda?
I have a question. Does the council members, do they have jobs, or is
Some
this
do.
their only job?
No, some have jobs.
2 have jobs.
2 out of our 5.
I think some folks are retired.
Right.
You know,
Okay.
had previous jobs. But wouldn't it be nice if there was at least something that we could possibly entertain having someone do this that wasn't retired, that would be able to have some of that compensation, have that compensation higher than what this
Yeah,
is?
because some people aren't working as many hours as the others. I mean, depending on what their jobs are. I mean, it's not a one-job thing.
Well, I think every council member gets 400 pages every 2 weeks to roll through, and plus keep up with all the committees, and plus go out to all of the things representing the city, and all of the state associations to represent Sebastian, to try to bring the best services and the best things. I mean, it is not an easy job. And they do it because they have a servant attitude and want to see the city be better. But I still think is there a way that we could take the numbers out of the charter and have a formula that would make sense based on what's going on in the city? I don't know, I just hate that that it has to be a number in the charter. It seems too finite for me.
I mean, it's okay to give them a lot of money, but we're different from Vero Beach. We don't have the things going on, and they don't get, I mean, we don't. I don't think we should be paying the same price or same salary as someone in Vero Beach.
I actually think the city of Vero Beach is smaller in population than the city of
15,000.
Sebastian.
and we're 27,000. So we're almost twice as big as Vero Beach.
It is, I mean, you
True.
think it's because of the 60 corridor and all the stuff, and Vero Beach seems like the kind of center of things, but the city is much smaller than we are.
Madam Chair, I'd like to ask Mr. Benton a question as our city manager. Doing this increase, is this going to put a strain on our city budget or financial moving forward? I mean, that's my question to you.
Well, I mean, I'll answer that with a general answer. The budget as presented this year is balanced. So anything additional as we continue to go forward is going to be dependent on property taxes and revenues as they continue to increase, decrease, those elements that come in. So yes, it will have an effect. Is it manageable? It really depends on what the numbers come out to be as we go forward. But yes, it will have an effect.
Something,
I have a question.
Something we need to remember is up at Tallahassee, they're all spewing to get rid of property taxes. So where's the money going to come from just to operate the cities? And now they're starting to throw, I was reading some of these crazy ideas they're throwing around. We're all going to be paid for it. Things that aren't taxed will be taxed, I'm sure. So we have to think that if they do that, what's going to happen to our budget?
So just going through quick numbers, right now, it's $12,600 yearly is what we offer mayor, vice mayor, and our council members. So even if we double that, we're only talking another $12,000, $13,000, which, I mean, I'm sure Mr. Benton can find $12,000 or $13,000 somewhere in the budget for next year without putting a strain.
And that's in a
on the
$50 million
taxpayer.
budget.
That's correct. So we're talking peanuts at the end of the day, but a lot of these people, some people work, some people are retired, but I see they're at luncheons. They're dealing with issues when the swale's clogged up. They're in P&Z issues. If somebody don't agree with this, they're the ones that are getting the phone calls. And like I said, they're not here for the money, but they do deserve to have some kind of compensation. And we haven't looked at this in 20 years. So I do think that we really need to discuss raising it to, whatever the committee's desire is. But I do think we need to really discuss raising it somewhat.
And I agree with Mr. Borden there. I know on my street alone, which is only 5 minutes from here, within the last 6 months, they built 8 houses. I got 2 going in right next to me right today. So, I mean, it's not like the money isn't going to be there to double it.
I support.
Go ahead, Nick.
I support, even doubling like Tim suggested. The problem is the general public does not have a clear understanding of how many hours the councilmen put in. Like I say, they see him up on a dais and they think that's it. But we all know here
That's
the
kind of
hours
one
they
of the
put in.
reasons why I would like to see a formula used by population, because it's much more palatable to a voter. Because if you say, so he calculated it would be 2.2 cents, and so this formula that Pompey uses, it has the stopgap of also looking at the consumer price index in the UF and the census numbers. But, if we could play around with that a little bit, because if you put something in here, it would keep the compensation rolling as the city grows or as it contracts. And so the compensation would be more fluid and it wouldn't have to be discussed every single time. Does that make sense?
But I perceive people out there in the public are going to think that you're trying to propagate a scam by using a formula instead of a set figure out there. You could have a set figure, say you raised mayor to $800, but then can we add to that he gets a cost of living increase based on whatever the cost of living published by the federal government is each year?
Yeah, like
compensate, because to use a formula like you're talking about, you're not going to be able to increase that in a large sum at one time.
Well, yes, the way you introduce it is the percentage of the population. So if you do 1 penny, 2 pennies, 5 pennies, 10%, it's a percentage thing. But I think it sounds like everybody wants to stay to a finite number. Is that what we're hearing? No? Yes? No?
I just throw in one thing, and you kind of alluded to it, but also think about if the population increases, all of our council members are at-large members. And we want them to be responsive to the residents. If over the next 10 or 20 years that residency grows, they are answering to that many more people, and you want them to continue to be responsive to them. So, you know, there is a logic, and that's the logic Palm Bay used when they put theirs through in 2016, is that, you know, as we continue to grow, the job gets harder. And you're talking about property taxes being cut. If any of that goes through the legislature, you know, I mean, we don't know how that's going to unfold with money. We still need money to operate, and the state has to acknowledge that. But the job's, again, going to get harder. So it's like every year, every legislative session, every new development of homes, every new business just makes the council member's job harder, you know, and I think that's where the intent to compensate them for the difficulty that their job is.
I lived in Palm Bay for 5 years.
Dave, Mike.
I lived in Palm Bay for 5 years, owned a home there, also worked for the city. I guess the most tactful way I can say this is I don't want to be associated with something mirroring a policy of Palm Bay. They don't have a really strong reputation, at least in my mind, for fiscal responsibility. This city, however, based on my knowledge and what I've seen, does have a very strong fiscal and responsibly based reputation. Can we have our finance guy perhaps come back to us with something? Maybe he has a suggestion or options we could look at. And if not, I'm okay, as you were stating, doubling what the current dollar amount is. But again, I would also refrain or warn about giving benefits, health care, that kind of stuff, because that's going to crush. That's going to crush a budget. You know, I'm sure the city manager can give you the real numbers, but you know, when you're looking at hiring an employee and it's $40,000 a year salary, add another several $1,000s onto that for your benefits and your insurance and your workman's comp and all that stuff that has to go along with it. So, I agree you need to be paid for your time, but it's also, to me, a balance between I'm a public servant and I'm an elected official versus I'm a paid employee of the city. And I think we all have a good understanding of that, which is really cool that everybody's on the same page there. But I don't want to offend anyone, but that whole formula thing, when I see it on a ballot, I've seen several of those, it just makes me think something's going on here. That's the one I just vote no on immediately. But again, that's my opinion and not anything else. That's all I have.
Jeannie?
I agree, they should increase, but I also feel that they still should be able to keep their $300 a month expenses.
Well, that's not even part of this conversation for compensation. That's more of the policy.
Right, yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying, people know that. So if we give them a raise, people will say, well, then why are we giving them, that's what I'm just saying. You know, I don't want people to think we're doubling it, but they still get their little $300 extra a month.
Piggyback on that, I can remember when they wound up having to bring in the $300 a month expenses because they were getting shot down to get an increase on their their monthly. So that's where the $300 came in to kind of give them a raise with, without calling it that.
Sharon?
I understand what you're talking about as far as like people thinking it's a scam if you're using a formula or whatever. But personally, I think if we could start out with, they will have X number of compensation, $600, whatever, compensation. And if we phrased it based on 2.2 cents per, person in the city, and then allow it maybe with each term expiration or something, to increase again based on the population. But if we had that base number and the people realize that that base number came from X number of cents per person in the population, it wouldn't seem as scammy. Rather than, because otherwise they're going to look at, we're going to pay them 2 cents per person, then that leaves everybody in town to have to do the math, and who knows how their math is. I know mine isn't always great.
I think you could do the math for them in the proposal.
Yeah,
sure.
but that's what I mean, is so if you started with a base rate and said that equals to so much per person, and then their increases would be based on so much, that amount per person. Maybe, I don't know.
Madam Chair,
Bill.
then what you would have is you'd have the electorate saying that they're going to be in bed with the real estate people because they want to get development so they could get a raise. I mean, I can hear it.
Well, there's like
And we've
people saying
seen,
stuff here.
and we've seen property tax or property values drop by what, 18%? And Sebastian, would you say, Tim, roughly? Yeah. And the other thing is we see that property tax reform passed in Ohio. It looks like it's going to pass in Texas. I think it's something that we're going to have to look at. I agree that they probably need a raise of $100 or $200 a month. The question is, how do we get that to the taxpayers for approval? It is public service. When I ran, if it would have paid $50 a month, it didn't matter. I was here to help the community, not line my pockets. At the time, I was working full-time, and I had 2 side businesses. So the money isn't the object of running for the office. But yes, they do need some kind of additional compensation. I agree.
Just to ask if Charles or Officer Singh, do you have any input on this?
I'm a big proponent of direct pay from the consumer, so I would be a fan of the Palm Bay per citizen. I don't like percentages as an overall umbrella, but I would like to see something that ties right into what Palm Bay does. They are our sister city, and it would be consistent in service. We are a larger city than Vero Beach, and I think the dynamics in Sebastian may lend itself to it. That is what I like. They do need a raise. If it's just a dollar amount, I would like to see it at $1,200, closer to what the other cities are offering. And mostly because I want to be consistent with what other cities are offering. And not as a property tax, but as in the taxing structure as a line item, either in non-ad valorem line item. This way, if the property taxes are taken out, this is still in there. However, I got to structure that. As a percentage, we can set it up that as the city grows, so does their salary, because their duties grow. I mean, I don't know if you see some of these councilmen and the mayor and vice mayor, but they're at just about every function that the city has. If I go into the city hall, I see them in their offices working diligently, and we only see them on the dais. So I am for a percentage per citizen, per population, and whatever Palm Bay is offering. And I do like the idea of a full benefit package. And asking these people to spend their whole lives here, 20 years. We've got council people on this council that's been here for 20 years. And if we would have had a retirement plan years ago or something similar to what Palm Bay offers, I don't know what their whole compensation package is, But that is what I would lean towards. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Officer Singh, do you have anything?
Yes, ma'am. So listening to everything, number one, I do agree with Tim heavily. We definitely need to raise it. Is there any way when we do ask the voters for this, we could put a line of, hey, within the last 20 years, there's been no raise? Is there anything against that, Mr. Stokes, or?
No, we would definitely be allowed, once we get this set and we figure out what we're putting in front of the voters, we can do an education campaign. We can't advocate for or against, but we can educate.
Okay.
And that would be part of that education, to let people know when the last time there was a change.
I would think that might change their perception, especially seeing that number. It's been 20 years since we raised that. And just in public, everybody knows how prices have soared for everything, even just basic groceries. Also, another thing is, I would definitely like to see if the financial advisor could come up with a like a formula, 2 cents per person. If we doubled that, then the monthly should double also. Something that if we can get that by next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Any more conversation about this? What's your pleasure?
I'm inclined to agree with Bill about the $100 to $200 increase. But I'm strictly opposed to the benefit package. So,
You mean like an employee package,
like the retirement and the insurance and.
which doesn't exist, correct?
No.
Correct. Right, yeah. So do we, Tim?
And I'm a little torn where, you guys know where I stand about a raise, but I'm asking myself, what method of getting to the finish line is going to register to the voter the best? What's going to be most understood? We're talking about this. How do we get this accomplished, though? Is it the 2 cents or is it the straight dollar amount? I don't have that number. I'm more of a simple person where I'd like to just see a dollar amount. This is what it is.
Yeah, I think so.
At the end of the day, where I think adding all these lines and this and that could be very confusing. But, if we advocate where, hey, 2006 was the last raise, a lot's happened since 2006, this is what it is. But I'm going to make a motion that we double the vice mayor and the councilor salaries to $600, and we make the mayor's salary $750.
Madam Chair.
May I ask Tim, will the $300 expense a month still continue?
The $300 is separate. This is strictly for compensation. Everything else was still the same.
Okay.
Bill?
Could we consider putting cost of living in there so it doesn't have to be, we're not in the same position 20 years from now? Or for you, you put that in your motion as well.
So the motion is made to go to $600 for vice mayor and council and $750 for mayor. If you want to amend that motion to add a consumer price index increase, or?
Well, Mr. Stokes, a couple questions for you on that. Is that going to make it harder to pass? That's what I want to ask the committee. Is that going to make it harder for them to pass another element that we have to get through? And is there anything legality with that?
There's no illegality. I mean, we could definitely do that. And again, it's for the committee to decide whether they think that'd be harder to get past the voters. I don't think it would. That's very commonplace. My one suggestion might be, instead of doing consumer price index, tying it to the raise that the general employees get. That's usually roughly around that number, but consumer price index, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to look it up. The Department of Labor puts out,
Excel
a stat, because it's like, is it rural, is it urban, is it rural near urban, and all of this stuff. So since there's already a process to give the general employees a raise, you could say it the same as the general employees.
Yep, Madam Chair, then I'd like to make an amendment to my motion to include that their raise would be continuous off of what the employees' raises would be on an annual basis.
And I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hey, we got through compensation. Good job. That was pretty good. And you'll put that into wonderful language for us, right?
I'll bring some language back next time.
Okay. All right. What time is it? 7:14. Let's see if we can get through section 2.06, the mayor and the vice mayor, which is about the selection and the term and how they're selected. I don't think we have to read this. Everyone's read this, correct? Mr. Gilmore.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to throw out for conversation. I've had people ask me, well, why can't we vote for mayor? And, you know, other cities, you do vote for a mayor. And I said, well, that's just not the way we do it. You know, it's the council members determine who the mayor is going to be every year. But it is something to think about that other cities do, where you actually vote for you vote for the mayor, and they usually have a different term. So we could go back to, like a 3-year term for the mayor, and it's just something that's possible, but I don't know if it would make any
Anybody
difference.
have any feelings about that? Grace?
I believe that's tied to your form of government. I think at one time the city was a mayor. Like what you said, they voted for the mayor and then you had the city council, but it was changed, and I don't know what year it was changed. We went to a different form of government where it was city manager pretty much runs everything with the approval and stuff, serves in the pleasure of the council and that. So I think that's tied to your form of government. So we would actually have to amend the charter to change our form of government.
Actually, and there is a lot of confusion on this. There is that strong mayor form of government where you elect a mayor and they run things as a chief executive in lieu of having a city manager. But you can also still have a manager, council manager form of government and elect the mayor. And that's very commonplace where. Like
Fort Pierce.
Like Fort Pierce, Palm Bay does it too. I think both Malabar and Grant Valcarrier are like that too. Melbourne Beach, I know, is like that because they just went through a mayor change. But if a person's going to run, they either run for mayor or they run for a council seat, and they're elected separately, and then they're the mayor. And then, the vice mayor, you could still have chosen among the council members, but the mayor could be a separate seat if that's what this committee wants to propose.
Right, and I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. If you do that, does the mayor have voting rights?
Again, depends on what you guys put together. I have worked in our system with 5 people. You'd still want the mayor to have voting rights because you need an odd number. There are places, Malabar is one of them. One of the cities I worked for, Green Acres down in Palm Beach, they actually had 6-member councils, and the mayor didn't vote unless there was a tie. And of course, you'd only have a tie if there was a member missing because they had 5 members, besides the mayor. There are some places where a mayor would have a veto right, where if they don't vote, council votes, and then the mayor within 14 days could veto it, and then the council could override that veto. Very, very much of a congressional legislative style. So, I mean, truly the power of the mayor is whatever your imagination can come up with. We could come up with language, but again, if you make it too complex, I don't know if the voters will get it. So, but
I think it's fine the way it is.
One of the things that I don't like about having just a mayor election is there's a good opportunity to lose an experienced person that has a lot of knowledge and background about the city in an election that would really weaken our council. And I like the fact, I've always liked the fact that the 5 folks kind of lean on each other's strengths and weaknesses and determine who they think would be the best for that role. There's no question we can do that. There would be multiple changes in this section if you wanted to just carve out a mayor role. But it looks like it's working really well. It's kind of, do we really want to change something?
I wasn't
that's not
advocating
broken?
for it. I was just throwing that out there that people have asked me why I can't vote for the mayor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I think it was Ms. Hill that brought up where people are like, well, you're never going to beat the incumbent. Why should I? You know what I mean? And I understand what you're saying about you have a strong mayor in there, but sometimes you have to look outside the box, and there might be somebody else that the community wants that's maybe a stronger. I'm not.
No, I know,
advocating
but
for
they
it
have
either.
to
I'm just playing
run,
devil's
and that's
advocate.
part of the that's part of the problem we have in the city,
Right.
is even getting enough candidates to have
Right.
elections.
Right.
So do we want to make it even harder?
Right.
Or more, hey, Charles, welcome. But I think that is a good conversation, because there are several that do that. But, so how many people are interested in changing this role and just having a mayor election? Are everyone okay with just kind of, all right. So looking at that 2.06, is there anything in that section, because there's all the duties, it goes for 2.5 pages, that anyone would like to discuss?
I have a question for clarification or whatever. It's in A1, where it talks about no mayor. If there's no mayor seated or the new existing city council, a temporary city council chairperson may be elected from the incumbent members. That's really not so, is it? Don't we vote until the mayor is seated?
I mean, we would, but we can't keep people here forever. So if they're deadlocked on picking a mayor, I guess this language was intended to address that situation. So I don't see this being used much, but yeah, that would be what we would do. I mean, if they did a vote and they couldn't come up with somebody, then we'd do another vote and another vote. Now, with 5 of them up there and they can all vote, that you would think that wouldn't happen very often, but.
Did that answer your question, Grace?
It did, yes.
On section B of this, the general duties of the mayor, does anyone have any comments, additions, deletions? Everybody fine with all that? And the vacancy part of the charter becomes vacant, the vice mayor should succeed. Everybody good for that? So no changes here, no further conversation on that part? So we're hitting 7:22. I just wanted to see if you all wanted to stop here or move. I'll keep moving on.
Or you just want heat?
No, I want warm.
I was gonna say, is it cold in here? Guys, I mean, I just walked in here, it's like. Oh, you missed the snowball fight. I did. What's going on here?
Oh, my God.
Bringing us hot.
I am too. Freezing.
No, we're going to go however long this committee wants to go. So I just wanted to.
I think the Madam Chairperson just asking if you guys want to keep going after 7:30.
Yes.
Come back. Is that what you're basically asking? Would you like to
Yes.
adjourn at 7:30?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this meeting's adjourned.
I'm bringing a heater next week.